Alright guys, good evening. My name is Mr. Redefined. So I want to show us how this lovely outfit was achieved. So I will take my time to explain to you how all these things were achieved. So it will be of interest if you will relax and take your time to watch all this. Happy watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you guys. Happy learning. Alright guys, good morning. Alright, so in today's video I want to show us how to make the style on display. Credit to the owner of the style. So I want to just illustrate how this can be made. Now it doesn't really mean it must be this method, but then you can as well use the method to achieve this style, right? If you notice, we have a combination of red and black both at the flap area and at the side seam. And then this sleeve, in my own case, I'm not making this exact sleeve, I'm making a 3/4 sleeve, but then with the same touch of red that is at the side, at the tip of the sleeve. So I'm going to explain to us how the cutting was done and how probably we are going to gum it and then sew as well. So here I have already cut out all the components I want. Now this is for the turn up of the sleeve. For the 3/4 sleeve I want to make, I will explain the measurements as we progress. Now let me explain the bodice first, which is the most important thing you need to know. So the first thing I have here is my front part. Now if you notice, in the style I showed you, the top was joint at the down part. Look at the top, there's a joining here, right? There's a joining here. So now this joining was deducted from the top length of your customer. Now the top length I have was 31. The full top length was 33, sorry. Then I have to deduct 4 inches for the width that will serve me for the joining. You can do 3.5 or 3 as the case may be, right? Bear in mind that the explanation I'm making for you is for a grown-up and for an adult. So if you are going to make this for a kid, please make sure you reduce or you compress your measurements or your dimensions to suit your customer size. So but then for a regular adult, you can use the measurements I'm explaining, right? So now the top length I have is 33 or 31 thereabouts. Then I deducted 4 inches for the side, for the down joining. Now this is the joining part of it, right? I will explain the flap. So this is the joining part of it. Now after you must have deducted a certain inch. So I use them 4 here. I use 4.5, right? 4.5 is what I removed. The ½ inch extra will serve me for the joining of this half to the top aspect. Now it was double, like on fold. It's on fold, right? So now this area, I use hemming gum to hem this edge. As you can see, you have to gum here with your material gum or whatever gum you might deem fit to use, but please don't use color gum, don't use gum stain, use material gum or any other interfacing that is very nice. So I gummed it full, the double layer, I gummed it full, but you can decide to gum yours one layer, the one that will appear at the outside part. Then at the edge, now in the cutting, first and foremost, I used my customer's hip measurements to fold. The hip measurement I have is 48, right? It's 48. 48 by 4 is going to give us 12. So I have it to be 12, right? Now I added extra 1 inch or 1.5. Bear in mind that there is no side slit at the top, right? It just has a touch of that red opening there. So you have to use your hip measurements to fold your top before you start drafting, right? The hip was what I used to fold, and then I did the regular markings, and then I made a shorter top length of, after deducting 4 inches from the total length I have 31 here or thereabout. Then you do your normal armhole and your neckline. Now cut the back, the same thing, the same rule you use in cutting the front and back piece, cut them the same rule. Then after that, I now use material gum to achieve this slit here, right? I cut a material gum, I placed it at the front this way. I did my slit opening, the placket opening of 6 inches or 7 inches. I taught the center and then I fling it inside and then I gummed it this way, right, just to achieve this, because there will be no need for facing or whatsoever at the front parts of the clothes. So that is for the front cutting and the slit opening. Every other process of cutting remains the same. The only thing you need to do here is to reduce the top length by the time, so that you have room to join or attach the down part very well. Then after that, the back was cut the same way we cut our normal back, and then I finally came up with this part, the down joining. I made sure I use the same hip measurements to cut this, right? So don't forget that I said we are going to use the hip measurements at the down part of the top, so that it will be able to enter your customer without having much tightness or fitting at the down part. So I have 12 here plus extra 1.5. I have 13.5, right? So now that 1.5 is for the inseam allowance. So this part that we have the joining, we not need the 1.5 inch allowance. You are going to have exact of that right there, right? So now the front part of this clothes is the part that has the black design. This front part is the part that has the black design, while the back has the red design. So that's the reason I use the black material as kind of a piping. I piped here, I folded into two, and then apply hemming gum and hem properly, right? So before I start sewing, I will have to stitch here so that here will close properly. I also stitch here, then before I get to the stage of joining this to the front part of the cloth, right? Fine. Now after doing this, the next thing you will do next is the back as well. The back, the same measurement you use in front cutting is what you're going to use to replicate the back cutting as well. So the same measurement. Now the back, we have the red closure, so that by the time you fix it at the back, it will appear towards the front, having that red effect at the front. The same thing I use. Now somebody might ask me, what is the measurement for this red and black closure? The measurement differs. It all depends on what you want to do. Now I have it to be I cut at 1.5, folded into two, as if I'm doing my bias making, and then I use it to tape the edges. So after finishing, I have ½ inch, right? The smaller the measurement, the smarter the finishing. That's for the red explanations. The same thing applies to the black as well. Then this is how it is. This is for the front and this is for the back. So the back facing, normal back facing we cut fully gummed as well. And then the sleeve. Okay, now the flap comes. Let's explain the flap. Now the flap, I first and foremost cut out red and black material. Now the length will be the length of your top from the neck to the half of the joining. That's the point of joining. That now the length, how you will get the length is from this neck edge. Look, from this neck edge, let me measure so that you understand. From this neck edge is where you measure from the top length. Measure it outrightly down. I have it to be at 27 because I have already minus 4 inches for my joining effect, right? So 27 is what I have. Now that means this flap, whatever you are going to do, must be of this length as well. Sure, understand, right? Fine. Now the measurements I used, I first and foremost cut out red and black of I think I used 33 inches red and black. I joined it at this center before I placed a white another flap on top. So this red and black was joined together inside. It was joined together inside. Then before I used material gum to gum the two together, and then I prepared. I cut out a 2 inches measurement of white, folded it to have the size of your choice. Make sure that the both edges are straight enough. I use hemming gum to hem inside the white before I also use hemming gum to attach this white at the center joining of this red and black. And then I now folded the red and black to give me the finishing effect I want. Look at how it was, right? Look at how it was. Then you now fold this red and black to give you the both ends result. So the total measurement for the flap now can be or will be 1.5 to 1.7, but please, you should not exceed 2 inches maximum, you know, because in this case now you don't have any option than to have a bigger flap here because of the design in question. So I have it to be at 1.7, right? So the length as well remains the same. So I'm going to thread at the both ends of this white before I start fixing this to the outfit, right? So that is for the flap, right? Then the next I think I want to explain is the sleeve. Now for the sleeve aspect, I decided to put a turn-up effect on the sleeve because my customer wants to have a 3/4 sleeve, and then I'm going to as well replicate the same nature of finishing I have. Of course, we have our piping already prepared, which you have known how to prepare your piping by now. Cut in diagonal form, measurement of 2 inches or 2.5. Use hemming gum, fold 1/2 inch on both ends. Use hemming gum to hem inside, and then fold as well as shown, right? Fine. Then for the sleeve measurements I have is solely your choice, but for my customer's case, I had the measurement of I think 18 or 19 thereabout. So I decided to have this joining as 4 inches. That 3.5 is what I use to deduct from the sleeve. 1/2 inch will be used to join to the sleeve. Then this will be joined in the form that it will come at the center fold this way. At the edge here, we have the opening appearing here. So how this one was cut was from the deductions I have here, as well on double measurement as well, right? On double, they use material gum to gum inside, and then use a black strand to trim one edge, and use a red strand to trim one edge. Then if you notice, it's having like an A-line shape here, right? Now this A-line shape is to give you a proper opening effect at the down. So all I did was, after cutting out the round sleeve of the elbow area, I just planted 1 inch inwards, plant it outrightly to get to this sleeve, so that I will have a slanting nature here. So by the time I now fold it together this way, I will have it to come out in this form, right? That's for the round sleeve of your customer. So this will be joints on this. So I will now show you how all these things will be sewn, and then possibly everything I'm going to do as I sew, I will explain in the video. Thank you for watching. Alright guys, so now let's start the coupling processes, right? So I will try my best to explain as we progress. Now if you notice, I said we have already placed the white fabric at the center. So in as much as you have used your hemming gum to hem, so you're also going to thread this. So this threading must be done tip to tip, right? So take your time to make sure you sew this tip to tip. The reason for the sewing is to make sure that this stuff will not be pulled off later on, right? So make sure you sew tip to tip. Now the beauty of this will be if your hand will be straight enough to sew tip. Now it will really give you a nice result or a neat finishing. So look at how the sewing came as tip as possible, right? Then you also sew the other edge of the white. It's just to hold this together. You can sew this before you fold the red and black backwards. So you can fold this, you can sew this before you fold it backwards. So if you notice that you have pulled off from track, you can retrace your steps now and then fix it as well. So you take your time as well to do this. Please make sure everything you're sewing must be neatly done. So now you have finished attaching this. You cut your threads as well. You cut your threads as well, right? Then you also take note of where the red and black strands are facing from the picture you have. If you look at this now, the red is facing towards the left while the black is facing towards the right. So meaning you should be able to know where to place it from so that you will not interchange the design, because you need to replicate whatever that was given by your customer. So you take your time, arrange this now. Then the red was facing the left while the black is facing the right. So this is the right hand side at the top and this is the left. So this is how this way should be placed. Then you will change your thread to the red thread and then sew here as well. Sew from the black as well with your black thread as well. Alright guys, so now let's fix this. So you make sure that the two piece is being held together. Make sure that the two piece is being held together, right? Then you place it this way, making sure that the corresponding colors are facing how it should as shown on the picture, as shown on the picture, right? The red is on the left, while the black is on the right. So you start your journey. Make sure that this neck is held together and that the flap is dividing the fabric into 2 equal parts. Then you start sewing from the red section, right? Make sure you don't exceed the part that has the red. Then stitch properly, and then you now bring it out this way, and then make sure that it's also balanced in this position where you sew. Make sure it's balanced properly, right, in this position, right? Then you sew from here. Yep, you sew from here. The beauty of this sewing is your ability to sew at the tip of this red. It will give you a nice finishing. It's very important, right? So take your time, hold the fabric, because now the fabric might give you tough time to control. So make sure you grab it properly. So take your time, go gradually. Don't be in a haste to finish the line. As you are sewing, you are balancing the flap to the center fold, right, of your fabric. So you go gradually from here all through down. From here all through down. From here, go gradually, right? Take your time to do this. So I will sew this thread and then show you the results. Alright, so now we are sewing the black strand, right? So this is how the black strand, the black area. So make sure you also change your thread to black before you start sewing that area. Very important as well. So you sew properly, right? Then as you are approaching the neck area, you consider your slit opening, the 7 inches slit opening you have. So you make sure you consider it properly before you get to that point, right? So at this point now, you measure the slit points you want. So I have it to be at 7. I want to have an opening of 7 inches, right? So you stop at 0.7. For kids, you can stop at 0.6 or thereabout, but please make sure you don't exceed 0.7. Alright guys, so now I'm done sewing the black strand and the red strand, right? As you can see how it's coming out, already our cloth is taking shape. So this is how it should be. This will serve for the opening, right? This is how it should be. So then, after you must have done this now, you're going to iron from the inside. Don't forget that I use a white rail under, so that here will be neat as well. So you iron from the inside to make sure that the pressure or tension will be reduced or removed totally, right? So you iron here and then before you proceed as well. Alright, so now I have changed my under rail thread to be black. So I want to to close the black strands or the black areas for the sleeves. Everything that has black, I want to sew them now, so that I will not change the thread again, right? I think it's better off this way. So I'm threading to cover the black area. So let me thread from here. So you sew, right? So this sewing as well must be done. So you are going to sew at once all the black material area, so that you will not bug yourself with changing threads at each stage. So I have sewn this black. I will remove this. I have to lose this now. I have finished fixing or correcting the threading, right? You make sure whenever you make a mistake or your thread goes off track, you pull it off and then correct immediately. So you cut. Then I will do this both on the red and the black. I also bring the whole black area, the whole black sections, and sew them now that I have black thread as the reel and as the thread, so that once I'm done with the threadings, I can now continue with the other colors, right? That is how you sew such works, that you have to be changing threads often. So pick the thread at once, sew on the areas that the colors are affected while you make the regular body color. So you thread on these lines. Don't forget that the reason for this threading is to make sure that this is fixed permanently on the clothes. So the same thing applied on the bottom fold fabric. You also thread at the black sections, right? Then after this one now, I will now fix my red thread and then do the red parts of the clothes. You must take your time to do this. Don't forget that the gumming and the foldings will not be easy, will not be fast, right? It's very tactical, so you have to take your time to do this. Now we are trying to do the red part of the sleeves, so you also have to change your threads, right, to red or to the colors you might have chosen to do the designs, right? So you sew as well. You might decide to join this as a fabric to the red and to the white clothes. It's still okay. If you still decide to pipe it the way I have piped, it's still okay. So anyhow you want to do the edge, it's still your choice, but then just know that you have to put a red fabric or whatever color thread you want of your choice. So I'm sewing the whole red parts now, so that after this now, I will now switch over to white thread and complete my sewing. So while doing this, please be patient enough. Don't be in a haste to finish it. Any good style or design you see out there took a whole lot of time to produce. So cut your threads as shown. Cut your threads as shown. Then the next thing you will do now is to also sew the red part of the back panel joining. That's the one that has the joining for the back part of the outfit, right? So you also sew the red section of it. You might decide to improvise another method that you might use to achieve this. There's still no problem. But then this is the method I think is very, very easy and accessible to everybody. Then this is the last section of the red part. So at least you have, I think, seen how so far so good. Right, so the regular sewing procedures will take place, but I will also show you how I sew it so that you also understand, should in case you have any doubts or you have any confusion anywhere, it will be cleared by the time you finish watching the video. Alright, so now let's do the back part of the clothes. Now I've already gummed the back the regular way we gum the back. Then I'm going to start from here. So I'm starting from here. I fix my label at this point. Then make sure you fold the center of the label, then fix it at 3 inches downwards from the neck, right? 3 inches from this way. Then you sew the label all through. I believe you must have known how to do all this before now, but the reason of showing this is in case this might be one of the videos that you might want to watch from beginning to end, so you always make sure you I'm trying to make sure you get the whole procedures of what you are doing, right? Then once you have gotten to this stage, the next thing you will do now is to join the front piece to the back piece now before you proceed to the other couplings, processes and stages. So now we have gotten to this stage. So the next you will do now is to bring the front piece this way and then hold it together with the back this way, right? Then while you take the back facing and place in front this way, right? So hold them together this way and then you join with half an inch. You join accordingly. You join accordingly, half an inch. You join this way. Make sure that whenever you are joining, the inch you use in starting must be the same inch we use to end the sewing, the joining, right? So join it properly. Take your time to do the joining as well. So you also join the other corresponding shoulder, right? So you join as well. Then don't forget that the reason I did not sew the back neck is because I'm piping, right? You must pipe the neck, so you have to join as well. So you join from here. So once you get to this stage now, then you now fling the back facing that was in front to the back, right? This is how the shoulder joining should be done. And then you decide on how many inch you want to use in joining or in sewing the back facing. You decide on the inch you want to use in the back facing. So you hold it this way and then you join. Then usually I like sewing tip to tip, right? Tip to tip is always how I like joining my back facing, tip to tip. Make sure that when sewing the back facing, you draw it down, stretch it out outrightly to make sure that there is no air under or the back body is not rumpled. So make sure that the ironing points are corresponding. As you can see, they are corresponding, right? So you join in that form. You might decide to do it 1 inch or half inch away sewing. It's still okay. You still might decide to have a double threading, 1 inch threading is still okay. However you decide to do your finishing at the back, it's okay. But make sure it's neatly done. That's the most important thing. So I will have a double threading at the back. So I will use the machine foot to gauge it. So I think I'm having it to be should I do, okay, let me just do double threading this way, right, at the back. So the reason or the essence of this is just for beautification purposes. You must not do this. You might do only one, as the case may be. So now I have been able to join this. Now what I will do next is to go and synchronize my neck. That's neck trimming. I will go and trim my neck before I start piping the neck, right? So this is the joining, how it's coming out. So I will go now on the table to cross check my neck and then iron out the shoulders and then trim the armhole and the shoulder. I believe you must have watched previous videos on how to do this on my channel. So I want to first and foremost join top stitch the shoulder. The shoulder area has a top stitching because the material seems to be so strong or so thick. So I will top stitch the shoulder area. So I'm top stitching the shoulder in order to help it to relax properly so that I will not have much stress in ironing that area. So when you must have finished this now, so the next you will do as well, you also top stitch the other shoulder, the second part of the outfit, right? You also top stitch. So you also sew from here all through. From here you sew all through down to this area. Alright, so now I'm done trimming the neck and I have trimmed the shoulder as well. So this is how the neck trimming comes out. So I will now pipe the neck and then start putting the sleeves, right? So let's pipe as well. I believe you must have watched previous videos of how to pipe, but then it will also be of interest if you can see this as well. Now we want to pipe. Now you fold the bias in this form 0.3 or thereabouts, depending on how much the extent you want to fold. Then you hold it this way, right? And then you make sure it's properly balanced or arranged before you continue piping. But make sure that this piping edge is properly tucked in. Make sure it's properly tucked in, right? You can use hemming gum to do that so that it will not give you issues while folding. So now you start joining or sewing the piping. Make sure it's properly tucked in, right? Then you start from there and then you sew gradually. Please don't be in a haste to do this. Take your time to do this. Make sure that this edge of the neck is tucked in at the edge of the bias folding, and then you sew. So this piping procedure is something that you must do gradually. Don't be in a haste to finish it. Go gradually, right? Go gradually. Don't be in a haste to finish it. Just go gradually. Go gradually. Don't be in a haste to finish it. You always make sure that everything is properly aligning before you proceed or before you go to the next stage. Any stage of sewing you are in or at, make sure you finish it properly, right? Make sure you take your time to finish it properly before you go to the next stage. Don't be in a haste to finish or to jump to the next stage when you are still struggling to complete the next stage. So you cut ½ inch above the edge of the neck, and then if it's much you can reduce it again, maybe to ¼ inch, and then you fold as well. You fold. Then this folding you make sure as well is properly arranged as shown. So take your time to do this. You might decide to use your screwdriver and tuck here in so that it will balance properly. Then the bias, after you must have top stitched or you sewn this one now, it's advisable that you sew the second line at the tip. The reason for this is to make sure that the bias is properly relaxing before you go to iron. Then at this point, you might decide to make it 3 lines or 2 lines depending on your choice. So I might decide to sew mine a 3rd line. So I'll take my time and sew this and then show you the results after I must have sewn. Alright, so now I'm done trimming the shoulder, piping, and then I have made sure that the down lengths are equal, right? You must cut them out, make sure they are equal. So once you have confirmed everything is equal, then you can now start working on the sleeves. Let's work on the sleeves, right? Now I will show you how the sleeves will be achieved and then how you are going to achieve everything you need. Now the round sleeve measurements we have is 13 inches at the tip and then 15 at the elbow. So we are going to mark that measurement now. So we have 13 inches at the elbow and then sorry, at the elbow area, 13 inches, and 15 at the, okay, let's do it here, 12, right? That's 6, right? 6. Then at the biceps we have 15 or thereabout. Okay, I think I have 15 there. So 15, but let's mark 16. Let's mark 16, right? So you see how the markings are done. Then you join this way. Then once you have sewn this one, make sure you also sew the next sleeve so that you will not forget the measurements you used in the closing. So the next sleeve as well, you bring it up and then you mark the same measurements. Don't forget we use 12 at the elbow and then 16 at the bicep area. So 12, right? 12 elbow. Sixteen is 12, right? 6 is 12. Then 8 here, that's 16. 8 here, that's 16. You connect as shown as well. Connect as shown. Then make sure it's sewn in this form. Then you're going to weave this area. You're going to weave it individually, and then you're also going to weave this in this form, right round, right? And then before you start fixing the joining parts. All right, so now I want to fix the sleeve. I have weaved, right? Don't mind the black threading, right? So but you can still use all through white to weave. So I just had to use one part of the thread. So now I have closed my sleeve in this form, and then I'm trying to attach this at this sleeve, right? So this is the center fold of this sleeve. This is how the sleeve will be. Now this red and black stuff will come at the edge here this way, right? So how then are you going to do this? You're going to turn it from the inwards this way, inwards. You first and foremost check the circumference all through to know where it's going to match. So it's giving me exact of that point. So I will start sewing from here, from the center fold here this way. I will lay it a bit across it or before it. Then I will make sure I sew half an inch. The inch I used in cutting or drafting, anyone you call it. So you sew from there, 1/2 inch. You stitch properly. You make sure you maintain the same 1/2 inch from there, and then go gradually round the sleeve. Go gradually this way. Make sure that the weaving, the seam allowance at the sleeve is properly opened. So you sew from here. You go gradually from these points. Then you make sure that when you get to this stage now, the next thing you will see will be the last segment. So now I have attached this to this. So this will lay on top this way, right? Then make sure they're equal here, and then make sure you join to the old line. So because of this place is so strong, I have to change my needle because it happened to break my needle. So you will not match. You have to roll with your hand to make sure your needle will be safe. So right, you take your time to roll with your hand, so to make sure you can sew past that point, right? So stitch properly, right? Then since I'm done with this now, so the next thing you will do, you have seen how the sleeve was attached, so you push this and go inwards, right? Go inwards. So at this point it will come out from, it comes out in this form. So look at how the sleeve came out, right? So this will also be done on the second sleeve. So if you now want to top stitch here, you top stitch. Now this top stitching will help you to hold down the allowance, joining allowance down, right? So you might want to top stitch, so you can just open it up this way, and then make sure that you push in the sewn allowance upwards, so that you will be able to top stitch properly, right? If you still don't top stitch, you can still leave it that way and iron. It's still okay that way. However you want it, it's still your choice, but I think I will top stitch so that it will give me that perfect finishing I'm looking for. So you take your time to tuck it out from up this way, and then you make it to relax properly as well. Now while doing this, don't be in a haste as well. Always be patient while making such areas. Then when you get to that point, that stage that the two materials are resting on each other, you have to raise your hand as well to roll, so that you will not break the needle of your machine in the case whereby you have a thick fabric there, right? So you have to roll. So you have to roll the machine. So don't match, just roll, so that you can sew there without much stress. So when you notice that it's moving perfectly, you can now sew properly. Then you can now match, then connect it back to the old line. So this is how this is achieved. So don't forget that I decided to add this to my own design, which wasn't originally on the style we showed at the beginning of the video. And then cut your threads as well. So this will be the sleeve. Then you have to go and iron properly, and then cut your threads. Then you might want to hold this down a bit, so you might just want to tack here. You can just place it together this way, and then use the black thread and sew a stitch here, so that the opening doesn't get much. But I think I will leave my own in this form, right? So this is how the sleeve will be. So I will do this on the second sleeve, and as well I will show you the joining of the down part of the outfit. Alright, so now I want to join the slits. I'm done doing the sleeve design. So we also join the same way we join our sleeve. It's what I'm trying to do as well. So when you join your sleeve all through, you will lock the body of the clothes, and then before you put the down additions, right? So the reason I'm showing you this whole process is for you to know how best you can achieve all these things, and then you can now do anything else in line with such design. So don't forget that the sleeve joining comes from halfway to the down part, then halfway to the other parts. So make sure everything is properly arranged, right? Make sure everything is properly arranged. So now this is one sleeve, so make sure you are joining with 0.3 or half an inch, the one we agreed on. Alright, so now you join this one this way. So now I have joined my sleeve. This is how it looks like, right? This is the beauty of what we have been battling with. So the opening, if yours looks much, you can still hold it together and then stitch a bit so that the closing will be smaller. The opening will be smaller rather, right? So you also do the same thing on the other sleeve. Alright, so now I'm done weaving the sleeve, so I want to lock the body of the outfit. So what you will do now is, like I said, the chest of the customer is 45, but his hips is 48. So at the up area, you are going to apply 45 inches at the up area, and then at the edge here, you apply 48. This reason is for the outfit to be able to enter the hip area without having to be tight on the hip area. So now it will be in an A-line form. So you divide 45 or whatever measurement you have by 4, apply on the chest area towards the armhole, and then the hip measurement is what you are going to apply at the down part. Then connect it in a slanted form or curvy form, however you want to do it. But make sure the down area must have the customer's hip measurement, right? So that's the only way you can go about it. So now my customer hip, like I said, is 48. So I will apply from the center fold to this point, as 12, from here to here 12. I will measure from here to here 12, right? From here 12. I will connect it to the 45 here. So I will do this and show you how it's done. I will go and mark it and come back and show you. So guys, so now right now I have finished marking the measurements, so I'm just trying to lock it accordingly, right? Like I said, apply the hip measurements on the hip area, and then you apply the chest on the chest area as well. So now after you must have done that, make sure that your armhole area are corresponding. That's one of the most important things you need to note while making any outfit, right? It applies on any outfit you are making. It's not only on this one. So you take your time to do that. Then when you must have gotten to this stage, stitch there properly, right? Stitch properly, then stitch here properly, and then you go up in this form, and then you make sure that you connect the chest measurement to the round sleeve, right? Make sure it's being connected in a straight line. There should not be any form of curve or bending, right? So connect it in a straight line that way. Then once you're done doing that, you cut off your threads. Then if there was any initial sewing you made on the sleeve, you can loosen it that didn't correspond with the new connection. Now you can loosen it, right? So I think that's all for there. Then you also connect the other side accordingly. So now let's also sew this. You make sure that the sleeves, that the round sleeve here, are corresponding as shown. Then from the chest, on the round sleeve you have marked initially, you take it down to the chest measurements. So you take your time to do this, right? So you balance it squarely. So now, when you're done doing this now, the next thing you will do now is to go and weave the edges and also weave the down area before you start joining or fixing the joining, right? I think that's the last part of the sewing before you can now do your press and buttons and the final ironing. But then I will dry clean. So I will go and weave the edges and then weave the down part of the outfit this way before I fix this. And then don't forget that I have already weaved this at the edge here, right? I have already weaved it at the edge, so you have to do it that same way as well. Alright guys, so now I'm done fixing and weaving all through. So let's fix the down parts. Now don't forget that the one that has the black is the front panel of this part that has the black from the picture we showed initially when we started the sewing, right? So now you cross check where it's going to give you a nice finishing. So I think it's here. So I start from this point, this edge, this front panel, then I stitch from here half an inch. Then you make sure that the length of this is also corresponding to the total length of the front panel from this edge all through. Make sure it's corresponding, right? Make sure it's corresponding, please, very important. So then you stitch from there. So you start stitching gradually, right? Please take your time to do this. Don't be in a haste. Don't be in a haste. So now you complete from here all through. You sew half an inch from here. Then go gradually, right? Once you're approaching the part that is too thick, don't sew much with speed because you might end up breaking your needle. So once you get to that point, you can just stitch with your hand, depending on the kind of machine you are using though, right? In some cases, the needle and the machine you are using will be strong enough to scale through any hard layer. But if you know your machine doesn't really stitch hard layer, please go gradually as well. Then make sure you are on track. So we are through with the front panel. So the next one we are going to do now will be the back panel. That's the one that has the red edge at the tip. The hand that has the red tip, right? So you cut it off this way. So this is how the front panel will look like. So let's do the back. Now you take the red piece as well. Check the area you have in neat finishing. I think I have it at this part, right? So now you pick up the back panel as well this way. Start from the side joining, the part that you started from at the onset. So start from that part, then place it as well equally here, right? Make sure the both lengths are equal and then they're giving you the same sewing. Then start from there and then stitch as well. So this is going to give you a nice finishing at the end of the whole procedure. So before you start sewing, also stretch it out to make sure that the length of the back is also corresponding with the length of the joining you are going to attach at the back. So stretch it out and then make sure two of them are corresponding. For the fact that you use the same hip measurement to cut this, it must correspond. So you have to be calculative in anything you are doing. That's the only way you can have a nice cutting and sewing as well. So you take your time and go through this whole process is right, then when you have your fabric properly cut, your sewing will not give you issues or whatsoever. So at this point, you can now boast of being true with your clothes. So the next you see now will be the pictorial view on the mannequin, right? So we are done with the clothes, and I hope this video must have inspired most of us to do something similar as we progress. So now I'm done doing the, let me now bring it out and show you the result. Look at the result I'm having, right? This is the result I'm having. So let's check the looks on dummy. I will put this on dummy before I iron, then you see the final result.